early and I said, you know something, I'll do a little recording on this poem Street. It came up in class yesterday. There was a request. Won't take long, promise. If you look at the page there, you'll see a couple of things that I think are worth noting. First of all, there are the key words on the Ní Chuilléanáin questions that came up in 2015 and 2018. Look at the 2015 one first. Demanding subject matter, formidable style, and then overall challenging. What does that mean, demanding subject matter? Get that word to, pop in your head, neon lights. What does that word mean, demanding? I think a lot of people interpret that as hard, difficult to understand, obscure. That could be true. That you could certainly say that's true about any poet. I like to think about it as thought-provoking, interesting. And I think that's why the word challenging is so important there. Because it recognises the fact that reading Ní Chuilléanáin, indeed reading any of the poets, reading Shakespeare, studying English, is supposed to challenge us to think about our own experience, about the experiences of others. It's supposed to require us to look at the world outside of our own narrow existence. And there is no doubt whatsoever that when you read Ní Chuilléanáin's poetry, poems like The Bend in the Road or Death and Engines, one of the great poems I've ever taught, Death and Engines, I absolutely love it. I think I did a video on it already. Translation. Her work is certainly demands us to think. Formidable style. Well, that's what Ní Chuilléanáin is kind of, I think, unfairly criticised as being slightly difficult to understand. I don't think she's obvious, and I think that makes her interesting. Formidable. What is formidable? If you're playing a sport and your opponent was formidable, they'd be fucking strong and impressive, and people who have skill, and that's definitely formidable. And it's definitely Ní Chuilléanáin. Unbelievably skillful writer, a beautiful writer, I love her. Then you look at the 2018 question, put the glasses back on to shine on the screen. It says that her poetry contains fascinating stories, relevant themes, so the thematic wording is a bit easier there, and a beautiful and mysterious style. Fascinating stories. Again, there is no doubt Ní Chuilléanáin is a narrative poet. Hate using these bracket terminology or this jargon. But, what is a narrative poet? A narrative poet is a poet who explores their themes through storytelling. The qualities of a story, characters, scenarios, plots, universal themes. That's what a narrative poet does. And her stories are, in poems like All for You, or this poem Street, or To Nile Woods and Zenia Ostrovskia. Be careful with the pronunciation. There are really, really interesting stories in those poems. And she uses those stories to explore deeper philosophical thematic concerns. This poem is about love. It's about what love does to us. It's about the mystery associated with love. It's about the irrational behavior that love can elicit. It's about the danger and sense of intrigue that love can bring about. It's about romantic love. And therefore, it just fits perfectly into the idea of mysterious. And then, of course, you've got beautiful, and the imagery is beautiful. The whole setup was beautiful. I'll do it really, really quick. It's not a hard poem at all. It's got one of the great opening lines. He fell in love with the butcher's daughter. What a great line that is. Please don't take offence if you're a butcher's daughter. But it's not a traditional. Introducing the word butcher in the same line as love is a deliberate, playful juxtaposition by this poet. The butcher's daughter, as she's depicted in this poem, coming out of work, having slaughtered animals with blood dripping from the knife that dangles on the belt around her waist. She's not a traditional romantic heroine. He fell in love with the butcher's daughter when he saw her passing in her white trousers, dangling a knife on a ring at her belt. He stared at the dark, shining drops on the paving stones. Tell me you can't see those drops of blood on the paving stones from that last line. There you go. Very vivid imagery. Those kind of oxymoronic adjectives, dark and shining. But blood is that, isn't it? Both those things. It's viscous, which makes it reflect light, but it's also dark. So you look at those two words, you've got, so much to play with. Darkness, suggestive of danger, trouble, distress, all that stuff. And then you got shining and its association with light, which, elicits thoughts of happiness and positivity and optimism. But the butcher's daughter is, of course, a symbol in this poem. The whole poem is an extended metaphor in which the poet playfully and imaginatively thinks about, the moment when we fall in love and how often it is illogical and irrational. This is a woman who's carrying a knife. She knows how to use the knife. She's a butcher. She's the butcher's daughter, but she wears the uniform of the butcher, and her knife drips with blood. So she's killed animals. And yet, this man is drawn to her, whoever he is. It doesn't matter who he is, because he's an archetype. He's me. He's you. We meet people and, we fall for them. And they're not necessarily always the type of person we expect to fall for. That's the really interesting thing. So the poem has, a lovely little scenario set up. It has these two characters. And it has these little hints at, fairy tale references following the drops, like Hansel and Gretel follow the breadcrumbs home. He's following the drops of blood as he's watching this woman from afar. And again, even the fact that he's watching her. And look at the second stanza, look at the first line. One day he followed her. What? It's a bit strange, isn't it? But when you fall in love, you don't always behave rationally. You don't always behave logically. Love can lead to obsession. That's what the poet is playing with here. It can make us behave in a way which is illogical. Where does he follow her? Down the slanting lane. Great image. At the back of the shambles. Fantastic use of language. Do you know what a shambles is? Shambles is a kind of archaic term, not really used anymore, for like a slaughterhouse, an abattoir. There's a very famous street in Dublin called Fishamble Street, and it was basically the place where the fish were gutted. But there's this image of, like, even in the most unusual circumstances, even in the most unromantic settings, love can occur. Love can occur anywhere. Then there's that slanting lane image, it's very vivid, isn't it? Like you can't really see to the end. So there's the mystery of setting out on that journey, that journey of a new relationship with somebody. It's all a metaphor. And then when he gets down to the bottom of the shambles, having followed her, a door stood half open, see? And again, there's possibility. The half open door. There's decisions, uncertainty. What do? You can't see all the way in. It's very reminiscent of one of the great poets, Patrick Kavanagh's great poem, Advent. He talks about through a chink too wide there comes in no wonder. And this is about the allure and the mystery and the excitement and the danger of love. And then you have this really weird ending to the poem. So he's standing at this door and it leads to a stairway. Let me just read the last 4 lines of the poem. And the stairs were brushed and clean, her shoes paired on the bottom step, each tread marked with the red crescent, her bare heels left, fading to faintest at top. I think if you were to ask Eiléan Ní Chuilléanáin what that means, she might say, it's not supposed to have a definite meaning. It's supposed to conjure up ideas of uncertainty. It's supposed to capture the moment of decision when we commit to things or when we walk away from things. The woman, the butcher's daughter, is somehow a figure of contradiction, and that's what makes her interesting. Like, she's quite, see that word there, fastidious? Like when she gets to her home, she takes the shoes off, leaves them at the bottom of the stairs. And yet there's this contradiction because the blood from the animals that she slaughtered has soaked into her shoes, into her stockings, into whatever she's wearing. So when she walks up the stairs, she leaves bloody footprints. She's not simple. She's not easy to explain. She's mysterious. And of course, that's the allure. That's the attraction. That image of the red crescents, the heel-shaped red crescents, bloody footprints, is just extraordinary. What does it mean? None of us can say with certainty. What we can say is that she's quite an enigmatic heroine. See that there? Enigmatic, enigma, mysterious, difficult to figure out. But she's a really interesting character, and she is a metaphor representing the mystery and the allure of romantic love. And in that sense, this poem, is immensely creative, designed to create curiosity, both about the scenario but also about the overarching philosophical concern. Because essentially when we read this poem, there is an element of the known and the unknown. And of course that's, when it happens to you, exactly what love is like. The known and the unknown. The logical and the irrational. The danger and the excitement. Street by Eiléan Ní Chuilléanáin.